What if the habits you've been told are messy or unproductive, maybe even a little weird, aren't flaws at all? What if they're actually secret patterns? What if that cluttered desk, the fact that you talk to yourself, or your specific sense of humor aren't just quirks, but clues? Powerful clues to the brilliant and complex patterns of your own mind. We've all been taught that intelligence is supposed to look a certain way. We picture a spotless lab, a silent library, an organized and predictable mind. But the history of genius and the front lines of psychology tell a completely different story. It tells us that high intelligence is often a messy, chaotic, and deeply misunderstood force. It doesn't play by the rules. In this video, we're pulling back the curtain on convention to find the hidden links between these seemingly ordinary behaviors and the extraordinary minds of the world's most intelligent people. What you find out, it might just change how you see yourself forever. Let's start with one of the most visible and misunderstood habits: messiness. We've all heard it, that old saying, a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind. It's a nice, tidy little saying that fits perfectly with our cultural obsession with order and productivity hacks. But what if the opposite is true? What if a cluttered desk is just the sign of a mind that's busy with more important things? Think of some of the most celebrated minds in history. Albert Einstein's desk was famously chaotic, a storm of papers and books. When people bugged him about it, he reportedly shot back, "If a cluttered desk is a sign of a cluttered mind, of what, then, is an empty desk a sign?" Mark Twain worked in a creative whirlwind of manuscripts, notes, and cigar butts. Steve Jobs was known for the creative chaos in his workspaces during Apple's most innovative periods, even though he was also a famous minimalist. These aren't just random stories. No, they're actually part of a pattern. Psychological research is finally catching up to what these geniuses seem to know all along. A study from the University of Minnesota found something remarkable. They put one group of people in a neat, orderly room and another group in a messy, cluttered one. When asked to brainstorm new ideas, the people in the messy room consistently came up with more creative and interesting concepts. The lead researcher, Kathleen Vose, concluded that disorderly environments seem to inspire breaking free of tradition, which can produce fresh insights. So, what's really going on? A highly intelligent mind is often an associative mind. It thrives on making connections between things that seem unrelated. A messy desk isn't just a pile of stuff, it's a physical map of a non-linear thought process. Each object, a book from last month, a note on a napkin, a half-finished project, can be a trigger. It's a rich, tactile field of data points for the brain to pull from. An overly organized space can be sterile, stripping away the accidental connections that are the foundation of creative problem-solving. A messy space can be a playground for the mind. Think about it. The mental energy you spend filing every paper and organizing every book by color is energy you're not spending on solving a complex problem or designing something revolutionary. For many brilliant minds, the cost of being tidy is just too high, and the benefit of a perfect desk is nothing compared to the reward of deep, focused work. They aren't messy because they're lazy. They're messy because their minds are laser-focused on different priorities. The discipline is applied to the work, not the workspace. So, the next time you look at your own cluttered desk, don't just see a mess. See a landscape of possibilities. See a mind that values ideas over appearances. A mind that might just be following a secret pattern of genius. Admit it. You talk to yourself. Maybe you mutter to yourself while solving a problem, or give yourself a little pep talk before a tough meeting. For a lot of us, it's a slightly embarrassing habit we try to hide. We connect talking to yourself with being a little off. But what if that private conversation is actually one of the most powerful cognitive tools you have? What if it's a sign of high-level thinking? Brilliant minds have been famous for this for centuries. Albert Einstein was known to mumble to himself, often repeating sentences as he worked through his thoughts. The classic stereotype of the mad scientist talking to themselves in a lab might not be a caricature at all, but, well, a reflection of a mind hard at work. So modern psychology now confirms what these geniuses seem to get instinctively, Far from being a sign of instability, talking to yourself, it's actually seen as a sign of high cognitive functioning. A study from Bangor University found that people who read instructions aloud, they performed significantly better on the tasks that followed. Researchers Dr. Paloma Mari Beffa and Alexander Kirkham discovered that hearing yourself speak helps to really focus your mind and lock in memories. It just seems auditory commands, even when they come from you, are so much more powerful than just reading something silently. When you talk to yourself, you're creating a feedback loop between thinking, speaking, and hearing. It forces you to slow down and frame your thoughts more carefully. A vague idea has to be translated into actual words, and that act of translation makes it clearer and more concrete. You're engaging different parts of your brain, the language centers, and the auditory centers. This approach can unlock new solutions that a purely internal dialogue might miss. It's like turning a one-person brainstorm into a two-person session, where you're both the speaker and the listener. Highly intelligent people often do this in strategic ways, using what psychologists call instructional self-talk. They walk themselves through a problem, asking questions and giving guidance. Things like, okay, so if I do this, what happens next? No, that won't work. What if I try it from this angle instead? This isn't just thinking. It's thinking about how you think. And it lets you course correct in real time. Self-talk is also a fantastic tool for regulating your emotions, which, by the way, is a key part of emotional intelligence. Top athletes are, famous for it. They use it to stay focused and control anxiety in those high-pressure moments. The intelligent mind uses that same trick, just, in a lab or an art studio, instead of on a tennis court. Giving yourself a verbal command, like focus now or you've got this, can be surprisingly effective at overriding panic, or even self-doubt. So the next time you find yourself whispering instructions as you assemble furniture, don't feel weird. Recognize it for what it truly is, a sophisticated cognitive strategy. You're actually using a secret pattern of highly effective minds. It helps clarify your thoughts, sharpen your focus, and, maybe even show off a higher level of intelligence. What do you think is a better sign of intelligence? How much you already know, or how much you want to know? It's easy to assume the smartest person in the room is the one with all the answers. But what if the truly brilliant mind is the one with all the questions? A relentless, insatiable curiosity is one of the most powerful patterns found in highly intelligent people. They have what researchers call a hunger for exploration. This isn't just a casual interest. No, it's a deep drive to understand the world, to take ideas apart, and to constantly ask, why? Einstein himself famously said, "I have no special talent. I am only passionately curious." That wasn't false modesty. It was him pointing to the very engine of his genius. And this link isn't just anecdotal. One major analysis found that curiosity was as important as conscientiousness for academic success. This suggests that your CQ, or curiosity quotient, might be just as important as your IQ. So why is curiosity such a superpower? First, a curious mind is an active mind. It's not a passive bucket waiting for information. Instead, it's a hunter, always seeking out new knowledge. This approach to learning is neurologically rewarding. Studies show that when our curiosity is piqued, our brains release dopamine, the same chemical tied to pleasure and reward. This creates a cycle that feeds itself. See, being curious feels good, and that makes you more curious, which then leads to more learning. Learning stops being a chore and becomes a source of joy. Second, curiosity builds a bigger toolbox. Highly intelligent people often love collecting what seems like useless knowledge, Things like the mating habits of a rare insect, or the history of a forgotten language, or even the physics of soap bubbles. This is a hallmark of a personality trait we call openness to experience, and it's strongly linked to intelligence. While all that knowledge might seem random, it actually creates a huge mental library. Breakthroughs rarely come from deep knowledge in just one field. They often come from connecting ideas across different fields. Think about it. The person who truly understands biology and computer science is the one who can pioneer bioinformatics. Curiosity, really, builds the bridges between those islands of knowledge. Finally, curiosity fuels intellectual humility. A truly curious person is comfortable with not knowing. They're driven by how much they have yet to learn, not by the security of what they already know. This makes them better learners, better listeners, and better thinkers. They're less likely to fall into the trap of being dogmatic, because their goal isn't to be right, but to understand. This pattern shows up in everyday habits. It's the person who falls down a Wikipedia rabbit hole for hours. It's the person who asks more questions than they answer in a conversation. It's the person who chooses the documentary over the sitcom. They're driven by a deep need to explore and grow. This isn't just a hobby. It's the engine of intellectual development, and it's the secret pattern that ensures the mind never gets stagnant. By the way, if you're relating to any of this, if you're seeing your own messy desk or your own relentless curiosity in this video, it's because intelligence isn't some far-off concept. It's woven into who we are. If you're having some aha moments right now, take a second to hit that subscribe button. We explore the real psychology behind the human mind every week, and we'd love for you to be part of the community. In a world that celebrates confident leaders and rewards people who have a quick answer for everything, 3 of the most powerful and intelligent words you can say are, "I don't know." That might sound backward, right? I mean, isn't intelligence all about knowing things? Yes, but profound intelligence is also about knowing the limits of your knowledge. This is the core, you see, of a trait called intellectual humility. Intellectual humility isn't about being shy or lacking confidence. In fact, it takes a lot of confidence to admit you might be wrong, or that you don't have all the facts. It's the opposite of intellectual arrogance that need to be right at all costs. Highly intelligent minds are often more interested in getting to the right answer than in actually being the one who provided it. This pattern shows up again and again among great thinkers. They recognize that their own perspective is limited and actively seek out other opinions. This leads to better decisions and more innovative solutions. When you're open to the possibility that you're wrong, you become open to a world of better ideas. And the psychological payoff? Well, it's huge. People who practice intellectual humility are better learners. Think about it. If you already think you know everything, why would you bother learning anything new? Studies have found that students high in intellectual humility were more likely to keep trying after a failure and actively seek out challenges. When they hit a tough subject, their response wasn't, "This is too hard, but I don't get this yet, so I need to learn more." This trait also makes them more respected and influential. Research shows that leaders who are willing to admit they're not sure about something well, they're often seen as more competent and trustworthy. It signals to others that they're not driven by ego, but by a genuine desire to find the best outcome. How does this look in real life? It's the person who listens more than they talk in a meeting. They don't feel the need to dominate the conversation to prove how smart they are. They're the ones who'll actively seek out dissenting opinions, not to shut them down, but to understand them. They'll say things like, "That's a good point, I hadn't thought of that," or "Help me understand your reasoning here." They're also more careful thinkers. They're comfortable with gray areas, and they're willing to take their time before jumping to a conclusion. They know that most complex issues aren't black and white, and they're suspicious of simplistic, absolute answers. For them, changing your mind isn't a sign of weakness. No, it's a sign of strength and a commitment to the truth. In a world filled with noise and overconfidence, intellectual humility is a quiet superpower. In our hyper-connected world, being alone is often treated like being lonely. We're pushed to network, to collaborate, to be social 24/7. But what if one of the biggest, most overlooked patterns of highly intelligent minds is actually a deep-seated need for solitude? Many of the world's most creative people were, and often still are, famously solitary. Nikola Tesla, for instance, he'd work alone in his lab for days. And Albert Einstein once famously said, "The monotony and solitude of a quiet life stimulates the creative mind." This preference for being alone isn't a sign of being antisocial. No, not at all. Instead, it's a sign that their inner world is a rich and truly fascinating place to be. This isn't just a personality quirk. There's research to back it up. A study in the British Journal of Psychology found something surprising. People with higher intelligence actually reported being less happy when they socialized more often. Now, for most people, more social time equals more happiness. But for the highly intelligent, the opposite can be true. It's not that they dislike people, but that constant social interaction can be draining and, distracting. Why? An intelligent mind is always processing, analyzing, and creating. Socializing, while fun, demands a ton of cognitive resources. You have to read social cues, formulate responses, manage impressions. For a mind that's wrestling with a complex problem, that can feel like a major interruption. Solitude provides the mental breathing room needed for deep thought. It's in those quiet moments, free from outside demands, that the mind can truly wander, make new connections, and solve problems that require intense, unbroken focus. Think of your brain like a powerful computer. Socializing is like running a dozen demanding apps at once. Solitude is like closing all those apps to dedicate the computer's full power to running one complex program. That's when the breakthroughs happen. Solitude is also where self-awareness is built. When you're alone, you're really just left with your own thoughts and feelings. Now, for the intelligent mind, this is a real chance for reflection. It's a time to analyze your own motivations and connect with your authentic self. This deep self-knowledge, you see, is a cornerstone of emotional intelligence. Now, it's important to separate this preference for solitude from loneliness or, social anxiety. Highly intelligent people often have deep, meaningful relationships, though. They just tend to value the quality of their interactions, over the quantity. They'd rather have a few profound conversations than 100 superficial ones. They don't seek solitude to escape the world. No. Instead, they engage with it more deeply, on their own terms. It's a powerful and often misunderstood pattern of a truly brilliant mind. Are you the kind of person who feels most creative when the rest of the world is asleep? Do you get your best ideas in the quiet hours after midnight? For centuries, we've praised the early bird. But what if that's only half the story? What if being a night owl is actually linked to higher intelligence? This is a pattern seen in many famous intellects. Charles Darwin, Winston Churchill, and even Elvis Presley were all known for their nocturnal habits. They weren't lazy, they were just operating on a different biological rhythm. And science is starting to back this up. Multiple studies have actually found a link between being a night owl and having higher IQ scores. Now, while it's certainly not a universal rule, and other factors definitely play a role, the trend is, well, it's really fascinating. There's even an evolutionary theory that suggests, deviating from the typical human sleep cycle might just be a sign of a more evolved mind. Think about it. For our ancestors, being active at night would have been a new and risky behavior, and a willingness to adopt those novel behaviors? That's often associated with intelligence. And practically speaking, the night just offers this unique environment for deep work. As the emails stop coming in and the phone goes silent, the world, it just gets quiet. This massive drop in external noise allows for a level of intense, uninterrupted focus that's almost impossible to get during the day. For a mind wrestling with a complex idea, this quiet is, truly, a necessity. The silence of the night really lets that faint signal of a new idea, it lets it be heard. What's more, some research suggests night owls may have greater mental stamina. One study found that while both early birds and night owls were alert when they woke up, the early risers showed a dip in brain activity related to attention after about 10 hours. The night owls, however, kept their focus and performance levels for longer. Of course, this doesn't mean all intelligent people are night owls, or that being a morning person is a bad thing. The key insight is that highly intelligent people are often more in tune with their own unique biological rhythms, their chronotype, and they structure their lives around them, even if it goes against the 9-to-5 norm. They understand that quality work comes from working with their natural energy cycles, not against them. So if you find yourself burning the midnight oil because that's when your mind comes alive, you're in good company. So when you put it all together, one thing becomes clear. Intelligence isn't what we've been told it is. It isn't some single, narrow trait. It's a complex, diverse, and often messy tapestry woven from our habits, our quirks, and our deepest curiosities. The cluttered desk isn't a flaw. It's a sign of a mind that puts creativity first. Talking to yourself isn't strange. It's a tool for focus. The constant why of the curious mind, that's the engine of innovation. And the humility to say, I don't know, that's the doorway to wisdom. And the embrace of solitude and the night, that's the sanctuary where deep thoughts are born. These aren't weaknesses to be fixed. No, they're the fingerprints of a mind that's actively engaged with the world. True intelligence isn't about fitting into a neat and tidy box. It's about having the courage to break out of it, to follow your own rhythms, and to embrace your own unique process. It's understanding that the mind isn't a pristine museum to be kept in perfect order, but rather a dynamic workshop filled with the beautiful chaos of creation. So, I'll leave you with just one last question. As you listened, which of these secret patterns do you see in yourself? Which habit made you pause and think, that's me? Share your story in the comments below. Because by sharing our own unique patterns, we can all help build a truer understanding of what it really means to have an intelligent mind.